No one remembered who painted it. Not the auctioneer, not the elderly widow who donated it, not even the art dealer who catalogued it. All they knew was that it arrived in a cracked wooden frame, the canvas thick with grime, and an unsettling presence that felt heavier than the dust covering it. It was a portrait of a woman. She was elegant, almost regal, with a face like porcelain and lips too red to be natural. Her eyes, an unnatural shade of deep emerald, seemed to look past whoever stared at her, straight into their thoughts. The background was blurred, just a swirl of dark hues, as though the artist hadn't wanted anyone to focus on anything but her. There was something captivating, magnetic, about the painting. People would find themselves staring, minutes lost like seconds, and always, walk away with a chill down their spine. The gallery owner, Charles Merrick, saw something different. The moment he uncovered the painting, he felt it. A stillness, as if the air had thickened, as if the room itself was watching. His breath caught, and a prickle ran down his arms. The room felt wrong. But he couldn't look away. That evening, Charles hung the portrait on the far wall of his small private gallery. He cleaned the canvas gently, preserving its mystery. Beneath the grime, the colors came alive. The woman's skin glowed with a sickly warmth, and the green in her eyes burned brighter. Her lips were stained like fresh blood. He thought maybe it was just the lighting. The first night he stayed late, Charles heard the floorboards creak, slow, deliberate. He thought it was the old building settling. Until he realized the sound stopped whenever he turned his head. It wasn't until he left for the night that he noticed it. A single red streak ran down the woman's cheek that he told himself it must have been a trick of the varnish. A chemical reaction. He didn't believe in ghosts. But the next morning, he scrubbed the cheek carefully with a cotton swab. The red was dry. And it smelled faintly of iron. The portrait bled again that night. This time, there was a full crimson trail, from the corner of her eye down to her chin. He stared at it, heart racing. He took a photo with his phone, wiped it off, and stared again. The canvas was clean, but in the photo, the blood was still there. A week passed. Visitors came and went. A few asked about the painting. One woman said the subject looked familiar. Another burst into tears and couldn't explain why. One man, a tourist with a camera, stared at it for 20 full minutes before collapsing in a seizure. When he came to, he couldn't speak. He simply shook his head, over and over, and avoided the painting as if it were made of fire. Charles started hearing the voice on the third night, soft. Female. Humming. He searched the gallery with a flashlight, every crevice and corner. But the song came from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was gentle, like a lullaby, but soaked in something cruel, something rotten. Sleep became a thing of the past. Charles found himself sitting alone in the gallery, just staring at her. Her name came to him one night, out of nowhere, Isadora. He didn't know where it came from, but it felt right. The humming turned to whispers. At first, just his name. Over and over. Charles. 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 Then it changed. Let me out. He laughed at the absurdity. But the laughter died when he turned to find the painting changed. Her mouth was slightly open now. Just barely. But he was sure it hadn't been that way before. The mouth opened wider over the next few nights. Her lips parted into a soft smile, then into something more jagged, hungry. Her teeth were far too sharp. The blood became constant. Some nights it dripped onto the floor. Charles would clean it up before the gallery opened, but the red stains kept reappearing, on the floorboards, the frame, even the ceiling. Still, he couldn't take the portrait down. He tried once. Just once. The moment his hand touched the frame, he felt the heat surge up his arm like fire. His skin blistered instantly, and he screamed, falling back as the painting watched with that open-mouthed grin. Visitors dwindled. Those who stayed too long left changed. One woman clawed at her eyes. One man burst into tears and begged to be forgiven for something he wouldn't explain. A child pointed at the painting and whispered, "She's behind the glass," over and over until her parents dragged her away. Charles stopped trying to sleep. He began talking to Isadora. She never responded directly, but her whispers grew clearer. She told him secrets, things no one else could know. She knew about his dead sister. About the affair he never confessed. She spoke of things that hadn't yet happened. 2 of her predictions came true. On the 12th night, Charles set a chair in front of the painting and watched until dawn. That night, she blinked that he gasped, fell backward, and nearly passed out. But when he looked again, she was still. Unmoving. But her expression had changed. It was colder. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't like being watched. That he locked the gallery, boarded the windows, and refused to answer calls. But still, people came. Drawn to her. She called to them, and they came like moths. Some broke in. Some never left. The bodies started piling up. The first was a young woman who broke in at night and was found with her eyes gouged out. Her fingernails had scratches of paint under them. The next was a man who had carved the word Isadora into his chest before stabbing himself. Charles kept them secret. That he wrapped the bodies in canvas and buried them under the gallery's wooden floor. Isadora never spoke when he did it. But the portrait smiled wider. He was hers now. The police eventually came. Someone reported the gallery's strange smell. But when they searched the place, the bodies were gone. So was the blood. The portrait was clean. Isadora's mouth was shut tight. She fooled them. They left with a warning. Charles returned to her, kneeling in front of the frame, whispering his loyalty. He didn't care about the gallery anymore. The world outside faded. There was only her, and then one night, the humming returned. But it wasn't soft. It was furious. The entire gallery shook. Lights shattered. The walls wept red. The portrait trembled on its hook, and Charles screamed her name. The painting exploded in a howl of darkness. When he woke, everything was ash. The gallery was gone, the frame, the walls, the blood, it was all scorched into silence, but the portrait survived, lying in the middle of the rubble, untouched. Isadora stared upward with eyes as bright as ever. Her mouth was fully open now, in a scream. A scream frozen in oil and shadow. A scream that never stopped. Charles disappeared that night. His phone was found in the ruins. On it, the last photo he ever took, the portrait. Except in the image, it wasn't a painting anymore. It was a real woman. Pale skin. Green eyes. Blood down her cheeks. And her mouth, wide open, screaming from inside the canvas. The portrait was acquired by a private collector. It now hangs in a lavish estate in northern England, hidden behind velvet curtains, only shown to certain guests. The collector says it hums when no one is looking. That the woman's expression changes every time it's seen. And that sometimes, just sometimes, she's missing from the canvas entirely, only to return, covered in blood, with a smile just for you. The estate belonged to a man named Victor Harrow, a reclusive millionaire and obsessive art historian. He claimed he found the painting in the blackened remains of the gallery, nestled beneath broken beams and scorched glass. It was untouched by flame, protected by something far older than paint or canvas. Victor said he felt a pull toward it the moment he laid eyes on her. He claimed it spoke to him, though never with words. That he hung it in a private room beneath his mansion, behind 4 locked doors, in a hall without windows. He said it was for her safety. But the truth was far more unsettling. He was afraid. Afraid that if anyone else saw her, they'd vanish too, and still, he couldn't look away. Victor recorded everything. Every movement of her mouth. Every flicker in her eyes. He documented the blood, how it would appear only on Sundays. He tracked the temperature of the room, which dropped to freezing whenever the clock struck 3:33 a.m. He invited only a handful of guests to see her. Some laughed. Some were unimpressed. But a few, just a few, stared too long. One man wept and called her his wife, another began scratching his face until there was nothing left but blood. The last, a well-known critic, walked into the locked room and was never seen again. The security footage showed him staring into the painting, then simply vanishing. One frame he was there. The next, gone. The canvas glowed faintly for an hour after. Victor grew paranoid that he stopped sleeping. He hired priests. He brought in skeptics, scientists, spiritualists. No one could explain her. No one could agree what she even was. She began changing again. Sometimes she wore a black veil. Sometimes her hands, previously hidden, were pressed to the inside of the canvas, as though trying to push through. Sometimes her mouth was stitched shut with thread. Other times it was a gaping maw of blackness with no end, but her eyes never changed, green. Alive. Watching, Victor tried burning the portrait that he doused it in gasoline. Lit the match. But the fire wouldn't touch it. It danced around her, refusing to singe a single hair. Her smile widened as she stared at him through the smoke that he tried locking the room and leaving, but every night, the locks would open on their own. And the humming would begin again, louder now. Clearer. Let me out, he covered the painting. But the sheets would be found shredded, every morning that he sold the mansion that he moved to another country, but the painting arrived before him, already hanging in the master bedroom. The delivery men swore they never touched it. His signature was on no forms. Victor finally vanished 3 months later. All that remained in his apartment was the portrait, leaning against a blood-stained wall. Her expression was almost loving. Pleased. Now, no one knows where she is. Some say she's in a museum, hidden in a forgotten basement. Others whisper she moves on her own, finding those who need her or deserve her, but everyone agrees on one thing: if you ever see a painting of a pale woman with green eyes and lips like blood, if you hear a soft humming late at night, if you feel a presence watching you from the canvas, do not stare too long. Do not speak her name. Do not let her smile, because she's always listening, always waiting, and once she sees you, ***, you belong to her, ***.